Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing why your ex-back chances decline. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing why your ex-back chances decline. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you need to improve your chances of success and not reduce them. In today's podcast, I'm discussing 3 reasons why the chances of getting your ex back can decline, so you make sure that you avoid these scenarios. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is you chase them out of your life. Now, I've never known a situation where you can chase something towards you. If you chase anything in your life, it is likely to move further away from you. And the same could absolutely be connected to your ex. This situation where you have been dumped, you want to try to get your ex back, so you decide the best course of action is to prove yourself by begging, pleading and reasoning as for why you are their best choice. Or maybe it's not even about proving yourself, maybe you're just trying to tell them why they're being so silly for ending your relationship, because you're so great together. You know, whatever your perspective, you must understand that the likelihood of chasing your ex is not going to be in your favour regarding reconnection. But chances of getting your ex back via this behaviour is very, very low in its success rate. You're much more likely to be chasing your ex further away by not listening to what they have said, which in this instance is sadly ending your relationship. Somebody doesn't end a relationship because they're feeling good in the connection. Somebody ends a relationship because they feel it's not working for various potential reasons. So even if you think you're absolutely great together, you need to understand that right now, your ex doesn't feel the same. Now, it might seem logical to you. It might make every bit of sense in the world to you, but you two should be together forever. And you have numerous reasons as to why. But you have to recognize your ex doesn't feel the same. Because if they did, they wouldn't have ended the relationship. If you do succeed in getting your ex back by persuading them to get into a relationship once more with you, then sadly, this is not likely to last too long. Because unless it's authentic, unless somebody really truly wants to be with you, then at some point in the future, they're going to recognise it's not really what they want. And if it's not really what they want, they will end it again. Somebody can only get back with you in a relationship if they want to, if they crave you, if they desire you, if they believe that you two together is their best option moving forward. If you persuade them, if you try and tell them various reasons as for why you should stay together, this isn't enough. Maybe in some instances, it could be enough to initially get your ex back, but they're not going to be doing it for the right reasons. They're not going to be happy. You're not fixing the problems. This isn't really even papering over the cracks. This is more about trying to tell them you need to do this. And of course, if you tell somebody they need to do this, they don't truly want to do it. You want somebody in your life because they want to be with you, not because you're almost forcing them. Of course, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But when you're in the grind, when you're going through the situations that you are, when you're within the breakup, you're not thinking clearly. Hopefully my words can help you see things just a little clearer right now as per the scenario that you find yourself in. Now, does this mean you can't get your ex back? Absolutely not. You know, you can get your ex back. It's not necessarily a lost cause. I would say that if you behave in the right way, you increase your chances of success substantially. But if you do the wrong things, if you behave in a way which is unattractive, needy, or desperate, this is not going to help. Now, please don't get me wrong. At the time of a breakup, you are likely to say things such as, I can change, we can get through this, what do I need to sort out, what do I need to do? You can say those things at the time of a breakup. It's understandable, it's emotional, you're fighting your cause, and maybe you can find some common ground during this time. However, what I'm speaking about is when we look beyond the breakup, post-breakup, in the weeks and months following your breakup, and definitely if you're looking even beyond that, absolutely certainly you shouldn't be trying to persuade somebody to be with you. Okay, so once the dust has settled, your ex, the dumper, has made their decision. They know you didn't want the relationship to end. They know that you would like to try and rebuild things with them. Now, if they still decide that they don't want to be with you right now, then you need to respect that, because they know your thoughts, they know your feelings. You don't need to tell them anymore. You don't need to keep texting them. You don't need to keep calling them. You don't need to wait outside where they work in the hope of trying to grab a word with them to tell them once more how much you love them and how much you are right together. Because at the end of the day, if they believed those things were right for them in this instance, they wouldn't have ended the relationship. Now, the reason why you were dumped could be various, some more serious than others. Sometimes it's circumstance more than you as a person. But even if your ex-dumper ended the relationship due to a circumstance, they sadly believe that this circumstance makes it impossible for you two to be together. Now, if you believe that you have a solution for this scenario, I would still think that at the time of a breakup, you've got to recognize that they've lost romantic emotional attraction, and therefore they can't be persuaded. Let me explain it somewhat so you can understand my perspective on this. Let's just say that a circumstance has ended your relationship. Maybe, for instance, one of you has to work further away. You have a job, and your job means you've got to move further away to do this job. Your relationship ends because your now dumper does not believe that this can work with this distance. Now, perhaps a few weeks or months after the breakup, your job changes, or maybe you even decide that you're going to change job and try and get something closer to home. Now, you might think this is going to be the solution, but the problem is, when the original situation took place, your ex lost romantic emotional attraction. Once they've hit that necessary low point, you're not going to be able to just say, hey, I've changed job, and everything becomes better, because their attraction level has dropped. And once it's dropped, it can't just raise again by you quote-unquote solving the problem. It's a lot more complex than that. So please, don't jump to any conclusions that you can do A, B, or C to definitely get your ex back. Now, of course, during the time of the breakup, that is when you might say it. You might say, well, look, if my job was closer to home, would this be something which would work for you? If they say no, then you can clearly see romantic emotional attraction has been lost. Sadly, that was the reason for why it was lost, but now it's been lost, it can't just be regrown by fixing that initial element. Sadly, there is more at play now. So you must recognize the situation that you're in and understand that chasing your ex by begging, pleading, reasoning post-breakup is unfortunately not likely to get your ex back, and in fact is one of the main reasons why your chances of getting your ex back will decline. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast. Please like this video if you're watching on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. And point number 2 is you lose romantic value. Now, when I say you lose romantic value, what I'm talking about is the principle that at the time of a breakup, you are a version 1 of yourself. And you would have heard in other podcasts that I suggest you try and grow to become a version 2.0 of yourself. But what happens if you go the other way? What happens if you decline to a version 0.5 of yourself, a version 0.5? Well, your chances of getting your ex back decline further. So let's look at this in a little bit more depth. One of the reasons for why your romantic value may lose further ground on where you were previously is that your physical health gets worse. Now, maybe this is a complete byproduct of the breakup. Sadly, when people are broken up with, their eating habits, for instance, often change. Some people eat a lot more, some people eat a lot less. Either way, that's not healthy. That's not a good position to be in most of the time, unless you're in a rare instance where you actually needed to gain weight or you needed to lose weight. But by and large, it's not good for your eating habits to change dramatically. But it's not just about eating, it's about physical health in general. Sometimes people will take bad substances as a way to try and cope with the problems within their mindset right now. Again, that's not going to help you. If your physical health declines, not only is it terrible for you in obvious ways, but it will connect and relate to how you look in a physical sense. If you look less physically attractive than when your ex dumped you, do you really think they're going to want you back? Unfortunately, it's going to mean that your chances of getting your ex back decline further. So looking after your health and fitness are absolutely crucial. But losing romantic value is not just on this. It could also be related to your home and or work life getting worse. Sometimes somebody gets dumped and then they can't concentrate on their job. And before you know it, they've been fired. They've been sacked. They no longer have a job. In this situation, they can no longer afford their rent. All of a sudden, they're in a huge problem. They can't afford their bills and they have to move out of their home. Now, you might think this is extreme, but I have heard of this instance. It's real. It can happen. Now, if you lose your job and you lose your home, do you think you have more or less romantic value? Well, unfortunately, the answer is less. And this isn't about people saying, well, it's supposed to be true love. It shouldn't be about work or home life or finances. Look, you have to understand that a romantic partner needs to be appealing. And one of the most appealing elements of a romantic partner is having a stable life. If you don't have a job, if you don't have a home, that does not show a stable life. So this isn't about gold digging. This isn't about love should conquer all. This is about being a romantic option and having a stable mind. And if you are living a life where you lose your job and you lose your home and you can't really live with the finances that you have right now, you're not a stable option. People are not going to be romantically interested in you in this situation. You need to make sure that things do not get worse post-breakup. We need to draw a line in the sand and make sure that you're not standing on a floor made of glass. You can't keep falling and falling and falling. We need to stabilize. Now, the final element of this, you losing romantic value, is connected to your mindset, but it's not necessarily about just the instability. It's also about you becoming a negative person. You might feel very angry. You might feel very bitter. You might speak to people who pass information on to your ex about what you are saying about them. You might even post it online. You might just carry yourself in a way where you look angry, upset, and awkward. Do you think people are going to want to spend time with you if you behave in a negative way? If you're the angry one, the bitter one? You don't want to be like that. Now, of course, it's understandable during a breakup to feel negative. You're going to have moments where you're angry, frustrated, bitter. It's about moving through the stages of grief. But it doesn't mean you should be holding on to these things. You need to recognize that this is not helpful, this is not good, and it's not really you either, I would suggest. So you need to work through this as best you can, as quickly as you can, and understand that even if you're feeling negative, don't put it out into the world. Speak with trusted friends, but don't speak to mutual friends who pass it on to your ex. It's not attractive. Speak to a local doctor, but don't post it all online. It looks like you're somebody with an unstable, angry, bitter mindset. It's not attractive. Nobody is going to want to be in a relationship with you. Certainly your ex, who has already ended your relationship, they're not going to think, I've made a wrong decision here. My ex is acting really bitter and angry. I want to go back to them. No, that is not going to happen. So please, please, please be careful about all of these elements for point number 2, because you need to make sure you don't lose romantic value. Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, if you want somebody to vent to, so you're not actually saying these things to your ex, but I've just suggested would be a bad idea to do so, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about why your ex-back chances decline. And point number 3 is you make rash decisions. So tied into what I've just spoke about a moment ago, about your mindset altering into an unstable state, is the fact but somebody who's been broken up with is very liable to make rash decisions. If you're somebody who makes rash decisions, you're unlikely to be making good decisions. Good decisions generally take a lot of thought. I'm not here to say that you can't be spontaneous every once in a while, but I'm talking about making sure you avoid rash decisions. And rash decisions, as I've just said, are much more likely to occur if you've been broken up with that instability of mind. So I've got 3 examples for you about how certain rash decisions could reduce the chance of one day getting your ex back. Now, the first part of this is, for instance, if you're somebody who has long hair, maybe you've got long hair, you've always had long hair, you love having long hair, and you now think because you've been dumped, I'm going to shave all of my hair off. I'm going to shave it all off. And I'm not talking about a little trim. I'm talking about getting rid of it all or making it very, very short. Now, the problem with doing something such as this is that it's a rash decision. It's unlikely to be something that you truly want. You're doing it out of anger, frustration, or to get a reaction, or maybe to try and prove a point of some description. But the problem when we look at all of this is that to grow your hair back is going to take a very long time. And if your ex, for instance, found you attractive with long hair, do you really think that by shaving it all off is going to increase your chance of getting them back? No, it's not. It's going to reduce that chance. But you shouldn't be thinking of your ex in this regard anyway. This should be for yourself. If you like long hair, then why should you be shaving it all off in some fit of anger within your stability of mind, losing control? Okay, you need to make sure you're doing things which work for you, but also if we're trying to get an ex back, don't make ourselves even less attractive to them if we know that is something that they liked. Now, another example of this is getting a tattoo. Now, many people have tattoos, many people love tattoos, but if you're somebody who has never had a tattoo before, I don't suggest you get a tattoo soon after your breakup. Is it something you really want? Removing a tattoo is very difficult, if not impossible, and it would certainly be very costly. Do you truly want that tattoo? Maybe wait till you have stability of mind. Now, even if you're somebody who has lots of tattoos already, do you really need another one? Do you really need the type of tattoo that you're actually thinking of getting? Is this going to help you get your ex back? Or is it going to have some type of connotation which is going to cause problems in one day getting your ex back? Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you've got lots of tattoos and you're now thinking of spending lots of money to try and remove or cover up one of them. Maybe that is connected with your ex. Maybe this is a scenario where you're almost trying to delete them from your life a week after being dumped. What happens if you reconnect 3 months down the line? You know, what's going to happen then when they realise you've gone over that tattoo that meant so much to both of you? You've just got to think things clearly. I'm not saying you don't do this into the future, 9 months, a year down the line, but don't be doing it a week later. Please think about this. And the final element I wanted to connect with making rash decisions is if, for instance, you think, you know what, I hate it round here, I'm going to sell my house and move far away. Now, what happens if your ex contacts you a couple of months later, wanting to reconcile? You see the message and you think, yeah, that's what I've wanted. I really, really want this, but I never thought they would do it. So I've sold my house and I've moved really far away. How is that going to work? You know, long distance relationships very rarely work. Now, I'm not saying that you can't go on some trips, that you can't go traveling, whatever it is that you want to do. But please, again, think about this logically. Would this affect your job? You know, please don't just quit your job because you think, right, I want to go traveling because I was dumped yesterday. Please think things through. I'm not saying you can't do these things I've discussed today. I'm just saying make sure you're doing it with a stable mind and that it isn't connected to heartbreak. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.